Transcription 92 start. This question, sir, in my humble opinion, should be viewed from a different angle from which it was looked at and discussed here yesterday. It is true that it is correct in principle that the railways whose entire capital at charge is drawn from the general revenues should be able to make a good contribution to the general revenues. But in applying this principle, care must be exercised. If we are looking at railway systems in advanced countries like the United Kingdom or the United States of America or any such countries, this principle no doubt could be applied on all fours. But in a country like India, whether it could be applied is a question that should be considered. It was argued that the railways should be considered. It was argued that the railways have a long history, and because they have long been an established concern, they should now be able to contribute to the general revenues. Although it is true that the railways are a long established concern, still the circumstances under which the railways were run are not being examined here. The railways, as well all know, before independence were run not on a welfare state basis, but they were run on the system of strategic lines. When the railway lines in India were formed, it was not the question of developing economic resources, it was not the question of linking up industrial centers, it was not the question of linking up the railway system with pilgrim centers or centers of density that prompt the authorities, the private companies to start the railways in India. But it was the strategic concern of the British government then that prompted these companies to form railways. The question of arriving at a correct pattern of railway system from the point of view of developing and exploiting the natural resources of the country from the point of view of developing the backward areas of the country is still there to be examined and to be attended to. Well, from this point of view, as nobody can see, there is much scope for developing the railways. In fact, there is so much pressure on Honorable the Railway Minister for new lines, and one will be at a loss as to where to find the resources from. They have undertaken in the second part of the 5-year plan to construct new lines of 1500 kilometers in length. In order to have a perfect railway pattern to be able to exploit and make use of the natural resources of the country to the fullest extent. Although we cannot dismantle the railway lines that we have now, still these lines have to be linked up to fulfill that requisite of exploiting the natural resources. So, my point in bringing out these arguments is to show that the railways have a full development program on their hands and they need funds. They can no longer draw from the general revenues of the country as the railway finance is separated from the general finance. They have to obtain the resources that are required for development either by loan or otherwise. There is the other need also to be examined in this connection, the need of passenger amenities both inside these houses of parliament as well as outside. It has been agitated that passenger amenities are required to be given in a larger and larger number. The second class passengers before independence did not get adequate amenities. In fact, the condition of the bogies, the condition of the waiting rooms, the condition of the catering facilities, and the condition of the housing, all these things needed much attention, although the railways have now taken up the amenities program and according to the recommendation of the convention committee, we are now earmarking rupees 3 crores per annum for this purpose. Still, I think it is totally inadequate. The railway administration has now recognized the fact that greater and greater passenger amenities are to be given, but they are not going on the right lines. I may make this statement clear by saying that they are not following proper lines with regard to the amenities that are to be given. I will take just one example and point out how they fall short of the requirements. Well, the question of providing waiting halls for second class passengers has been a much muted question and that naturally gets a top priority in the amenities program. Well, the so-called waiting halls that are now provided are like this. The halls are there, the exit gate from the platform opens into the hall and the entry gate into the platform opens into the hall. So much so that in fact the hall is only a passage. When people come and go, how can the second class passengers take rest here? That is a question which I have not been able to understand. Secondly, for the passengers who have to wait for a number of hours in these halls, necessary sanitary facilities should be provided. Now, the sanitary arrangements may be inside the platforms where the waiting passengers cannot go, and if they go and commit nuisance outside, the policemen will be there to hold them up and prosecute them under the police regulations for committing nuisance. So it is not imagined that when passengers are required to wait for 10 hours or 12 hours in these waiting halls, they should have some bathroom facilities as we have for first class or for higher class passengers. That thing has not been visualized even for our cattle sheds in our houses. We have doors and windows, but here for these second class waiting halls there is neither a door nor a window nor an enclosure. This I say to draw the attention of the authorities to think of these amenities in their proportion. Their estimate of the requirements of funds for these amenities is an underestimate. The needs for increasing the amenities are large. Stop.